Hey YouTube land, stuck in traffic today a little bit, it's going kind of slow. So I thought I'd share a couple thoughts on something that's, well, I wouldn't exactly say it's dear to my heart, but it's near to my heart. And that has to do with the current trend on Facebook to be seeing people talk about Common Core, and specifically, they seem to have a real problem with math. Now, this is going to tangentially touch upon the rather common plea that I hear from people. In fact, they wear it like a badge of honor that they simply can't do math. They're not a math person. I hear this from people who are things such as English majors or art majors, or just people in general who just can't do math. I don't know of any other subject where people take such pride in ignorance. And that's exactly what it is. I'll explain that. Some of the people I hear saying this talk about the difficulty they had with algebra in high school, or the difficulty they had with other forms of more advanced mathematics. My personal favorite for this are the artists. And I've seen some people who can make fantastic drawings that almost look three-dimensional. They have it down so well. They're doing geometry when they do that. In fact, they're not just doing geometry, they're doing linear algebra. They're doing a linear transformation. They're taking something from what we call R3 and transforming it through to the R2. Where does it have to be in order to map correctly so it's perceived that way? They're doing math. What they don't have is the vocabulary to describe it. Now, if a person who was otherwise okay, they weren't, impacted by a severe handicap of some type, they didn't suffer from a brain injury, said they just couldn't speak English, and they were a native speaker, they were born in America or the UK, or they'd grown up speaking English or in an English environment, and they just couldn't speak it. They couldn't get verb tense. They just didn't understand the vocabulary. They just didn't know what those words meant. And they took pride in that. People would look at them, like they were crazy. Because here's the catch. We all understand that people practice English on a daily basis. And you can substitute your own language for this if you happen to be a native French speaker. People practice this on a daily basis. And they practice it for hours a day. Not just when they themselves are writing a paper, or sending an email, or even a text message. Not just when they're conversing with their friends. Not just when they're reading a newspaper. When they're listening to the radio, listening to a song. When they watch TV and hear people speak. They're practicing English. And they practice it for hours a day. If they would spend, 2 hours a day practicing math to the same extent that they practice English, we wouldn't have people talking about how they just couldn't do math. We would have a nation of mathematicians. We would be a nation of people who could do complex calculations in our head, or at least would understand how to do back-of-the-envelope math, who would understand how to take scientific notation, because all it is scientific notation, and simplifying it and rounding it, and able to do these kind of calculations. That the athlete who says they can't do math, yet they throw a ball, they're able to dribble a basketball, shoot it at a hoop, throw a football so someone can receive it, throw a baseball right into the strike zone. That's physics. They're doing it all day long. They lack the vocabulary to describe it. If one of them were to say, well, I can't be a coach because I just don't understand what I'm doing when I throw a baseball, we tell them, figure it out. Go take a class. Yet they're doing it. And when it comes to math, they get a pass. And it's everywhere, from the elementary school on up. Since I ranted about that, I think I'm done with that. Practice math for 1/5 the amount of time that you practice English, and then tell me how you just can't do math. But here's what brought it up. These same people The same people who tell us all they could ever figure out was the most basic algebra. They just couldn't figure it out. They see some work students are being given today, which, by the way, isn't Common Core, but generally speaking, the ones I see most common are working on number sense, which they don't even know what that is. These same people who tell me how they just couldn't do math, they just couldn't master the subject, yet somehow they're experts on what we shouldn't be teaching because it's different from what they didn't learn anything from. They couldn't figure out math, and therefore we should keep using those same lessons. That just drives me up a wall. That would be like someone saying that they practiced English and they failed at it miserably. They only ever got through the 9th grade of English. And then they find out that their child is being taught English and being taught grammar through a different mechanism. And so, of course, that would make them experts to say whether or not that mechanism is any good. It just drives me up a wall. It just is absolutely infuriating. Because, by the way, they haven't even considered that. And by the way, I say that as someone who struggled with mathematics for years. In fact, I was in the remedial classes for mathematics. And so I practiced it, and practiced, and practiced, and did more workbooks, and kept trying. And I didn't give up. And because I didn't give up, because I kept working at it, I got better at it. So when I say if I can get better at it, anyone can get better at it, I mean exactly that. So, just some thoughts on the subject. I know not everyone's going to agree with them, and that's fine. Leave some comments. Let me know just how wrong you think I am. And please, by the way, tell me how you practice your mathematics for 2 to 3 hours a day. Not just rote repetition of the exact same problem that you couldn't do, but that you went back and practiced the more fundamental skills until you mastered them, and then you just couldn't figure out algebra. You just couldn't do geometry. But how you're a great artist and you can do that linear perspective and forced perspective so well. Because if you can, your only problem is vocabulary. So take some vocabulary lessons in math. Bye.